Okay, welcome back everyone to the 1 o'clock session, which is Forget Zerotrust. It's time for Nevertrust. Our speaker now is Barry Daniels, COO at Droplet Computing. With over 20 years of experience in IT, Barry's technology career started with IBM, and he has since gone on to design and implement a number of innovations. One of his most significant achievements is the development of Zoom technology source code. That's the pinch and zoom that you actually use today in your smartphones, which is used by smartphones, including Apple iPhones. So we have a bit of a technology luminary, shall we say, with us today. Barry, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So hi everyone. Today we're going to introduce Droplet computing containers to yourself and show a new model that we like to call Nevertrust, where we look after things like nuclear power, MOD, other government contractors, NHS, government, local government, central government, customers through what we do with the technology. As a quick show of hands, because we go to market through our partner communities, we're being supported today by a Softcap on the stand, and we have a stand at the front. So if you want to hear more, or you have a unique question you don't want to air in public, please come and come and see us on the stand in the corner, and we're happy to address those for you. Who's heard of Droplet here, first of all? The hands are getting greater, which is good to see that the technology is getting out there. Really what the technology is about is addressing three key challenges we have here on screen. As a containerization technology, we're not a Docker, we're not a Kubernetes. It's our own ones and zeros, a little bit of open source, a little bit of our secret source in there that we've built together to deliver an application delivery framework that is both compatible across any platform, we can run in any cloud, we can run on any edge. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that in a moment. Hypervisor agnostic, endpoint agnostic is the key on that. From a security point of view, I named right at the beginning there some of the sectors that we do take care of today. We've been pen tested to the nth degree by very, very secure customers that have security at the heart. And everything we built in Droplet from day zero was built to be secure by design. Our main coder majored in security, and therefore he built this application delivery platform that we wanted to build with security in mind. And it's given us a great framework of where we've gone. Ultimately, that security piece, and I'll explain the Nevertrust model, which is the headline, the tag headline of this session, and how we never trust anything, and how you can't configure or get round that to the point where we are invisible on the network, and how we do security for your applications and your servers. And ultimately, what that does is lead to a compliance statement. So across the board, from a compliance point of view, the landscape has changed. The NCSE have upped the bar on what passes now on things like Cyber Essentials Plus. If any of you here are from an end user point of view and you supply anything to a government agency, even if it's a shoelace, even if it's a pen, if you're supplying to a government agency, it is edicted and mandated by government that you need to have at least Cyber Essentials, if not Cyber Essentials Plus. With this raising bar that happened in April this year, the challenge that you have is now anything that is legacy has to be in a true isolation layer. If your applications are not in receipt of patches and updates, an auditor will come along, and even if they've been packaged to run on the latest, greatest operating system in tools like AppV, in things like MSIX, AppAttach, that no longer is a pass, because they then see that as the underlying hooks of APIs, SDKs that talk back to the underlying operating system, sees that vulnerability as that can be the attack surface out. We saw this at a customer that supplies their goods to marine bases, submarine bases, ships, MOD sites. They're a catering firm. of global standing. They'd gone down what they thought was best due diligence for their application. They made it run at the time when we engaged with them. It was on Windows 10. Windows 11 quite wasn't there at the time. And they had to have a pen test as part of that due diligence process to continue their contract to supply their goods to government and military. The vulnerability was found inside the application itself. It was packaged up in MSIX, but it failed the audit because they were able to use the APIs and the SDKs that then talk back to the underlying operating system and use that as the breakout mechanism onto the network. So an instant fail. So they were in a bit of trouble. The partner involved came along to us and said, what can you do on this? Fine. We put this into our container technology. It was re-pen tested, went back through the audit, and then they achieved a pass, and their £1 million contract was retained. So that's the real world edge of some of the use cases of where Droplet can be relevant to your organization, or if you're a partner in the room here, through our reseller channel, of why it will be relevant to your customers. The good news is we've gone through several audits now since April, to a NIST level, to a Cyber Essentials Plus level, to a Cyber Essentials level, and on every occasion we have passed with flying colours through the audits, got the tick box, got the pass. We're about to engage on a programme with the NCSEs around GCHQ and looking at our technology and how it can be furthered, and look at the deep line security. That's a 12-week program that starts in January for us. So we're in the right space to protect environments. We're in the right space where we're following the best due diligence we can in the most open manner to be able to make sure that we're secure by design as we say we are, and that we can comply with this compliance standard, which ultimately leads back to where you can find budget, where you can find the use case to bring it into your organization, where you can better secure those legacy assets maybe that are in your estate. Now, although we tend to get pigeonholed into the legacy story here, and we take care of the challenges you may have with Server 2003, Server 2008, 2012, older apps that run on Windows 7 or XP or DOS. And if you look at the use cases around that, people might scoff at, and I hear it all the time, why aren't people just upgrading? Why can't they just move forward? What I like to use as the use case here is the NHS. The NHS have data that they have to keep, not just for a person's lifetime, but beyond for medical research. How are they always going to find the budgets to keep up to date? How are they always going to move forward? They deployed a tool called Epic. Epic was supposed to be the be-all and end-all. They were migrating all of their data into one central modern system, putting that into a way to get up to date, to get secure. Now, here's the challenge. When all the people that use that data went into Epic, got hold of this data, had no contextual awareness. The apps that created that data were no longer there. Therefore, data was useless. It didn't give them the information that they need. The use case wasn't there for them. And it's the same in enterprise as well. Apps may even started off as, let's take Dynamics as a great player in the SQL space. When you're a large enterprise, when you have the scale challenges that some of the organizations in this room will have, you're bespoking it. It isn't fit for purpose. And then as soon as you start playing with, tweaking with, to ingest updates, to ingest change, it becomes very difficult. You've got a training implication. And if you're an enterprise-scaled customer, that's not an easy thing to do. One little change, just moving a button from one position to another, causes a whole influx into your support channels. It causes mayhem. It causes productivity challenges. The beauty with Droplet is they get a shortcut on their desktop, the same one they had before. They're unaware that Droplet's even there. They double-click at an icon, they get their app. Completely unaware of all this new security that's there, completely unaware of all of the changes. Therefore, it doesn't need to be retrained. And that's quite a powerful piece. They can gain all this security, which I'll talk about in a moment, the Nevertrust model. They can have all of that extra compliance in there that they can tick the boxes. They can break the application management life cycle. Because today's modern. Even if you're going down a best efforts route, you're upgrading, you're always keeping your app up to date. That's a constant cycle of money, pain, torture. Patch Tuesdays come along. Microsoft release a patch and an update. All of a sudden, your bespoke app that you've written as an enterprise customer, that may break in some way. So you can't ingest that patch until that's fixed. All of these challenges are a constant cyclical event that you can't get round, and you'll never get ahead of it. And it's expensive, it's difficult, and that's why legacy still exists. You can't get away from legacy, as much as people will say, well, just upgrade. It's not as simple as that. And there are some of the use cases. I've got many more, but there's some of the use cases there in the real world where it just won't happen. So how do you secure it? Because the most difficult part around how you deliver out your app, how you deliver out this piece is security. That's why you need to upgrade. That's where your vulnerability is. Because you've not patched it, there's a vulnerability in some code somewhere that comes out that then means, oh God, I've got to patch, I've got to update, I've got all this pain, I've got this possible retraining, I've got a new app that I want to build, that causes the pain. Not going to happen. So break the application management lifecycle, deal with the security, deal with whatever you want as a choice. We don't care at Droplet, as I said right at the beginning, what the underlying platform is that you're running on. It can be Windows, it can be Chrome, it can be Linux, it can be Mac. For your servers, it can be any cloud. It can be on-premise, it can be bare metal. We really don't care where we run and how we run. Droplet literally is an abstraction layer that is isolated completely away from the underlying operating system with no dependencies back to the underlying operating system. Therefore, that compliance challenge then ticks the box of it's out of scope because we are truly isolated from the underlying platform, invisible on the network. In the cloud, on your hypervisor, doesn't matter if it's KVM, doesn't matter if it's VMware and vSphere, doesn't matter if it's Hyper-V, doesn't matter if it's any other flavor that you may think of, Nutanix, which is KVM based anyway. Any of those underlying hypervisors, Droplet will run on. There's a migration use case here. The best customer use case I can get is there was an American company that had data and lots of about 1,000 servers in in a Russian data center in St. Petersburg. They had sanctions that were due to be imposed on them for having data in Russia. The American government has edicted that. That's why McDonald's and all these big brands have pulled out of Russia. How were they going to get it out? They had a difficulty dealing with the Russian people there. They don't want to let all this data go. They don't want to let all this money go. How are they going to get from where they need to do, re-architect it? They also had support issues with, they weren't 100% sure of how all this stitched together, what the dependencies were for these apps. They couldn't just go and rebuild it somewhere. That would be too difficult. What we were able to do within Droplet was ingest ourselves into the current system in the St. Petersburg data center, install Droplet there, convert what was there in the virtual world. It was on a VMware vSphere platform. We took OVA exports within their subframe, converted them to Droplet containers, got that all running in the current constructs and understood what the networking back-end patching was. We were then able to literally copy, nice and slowly, nice and stealthily, from the data center they were running with vSphere, export that out to an Azure site in UK South. Brought everything up. We don't care about the underlying platform. It just stitched together in the same way as it did today because we've not changed anything. We've not re-architected, we've not refactored, we've not repatched it. We just put it in this security framework. And the partner was very clever. They came across the use case migration. What would have taken them immense pain? It would have taken them at least 10 to 12 months to migrate everything. We done in a month. Because for us, it was a conversion. They can all fire off at the same time, use a CPU, a bit of disk, away you go, once that's done. And then we're a file copy process. So it's in a Droplet file. We stand up our appliance in UK South, we ingest them across the wire. Job done. Bring it all up, it all works. That blew my mind on real world use cases. I hadn't even thought that Droplet could be used as a migration tool. And it isn't until you understand the pain of different platforms and how different platforms cause different challenges on the back end and how you would need to restitch those, the pain that that causes. I didn't even know that that was a use case, but it was, because of the way we're platform agnostic, because of the way that we sit as separate. Security. So why is Droplet so great on security? Why is this tagline of Nevertrust versus Zerotrust? Everyone knows Zerotrust, right? In this room, or you should do by now, and the gates and the checks and the balances, you're putting AI in there, and it's all the cool stuff the CTOs are looking at, and it's looking at data behavior and how it's going through. But get a hacker, a zero-day attack that gets him an identity, and he's through microsegmentation. He's through the checks and balances of Zerotrust. He can go as wide and as broad as he wants across your network once he has an identity. And once he's figured that out, and once he's fooled an AI. It's immature technology. Yes, it's going to get better. Yes, it's the future possibly of certain things. We've got to be careful with that. How about a world of we never trust anything? I don't care if you're good intentioned, if you're supposed to talk what's inside a Droplet system. I don't care if you're evil. I don't care if you're bad. Your external data to me, we block all external data into Droplet. Unless it's built inside Droplet in the first place by the administrator in the way and given to the people that he wants to give it to, they can't get access to it. We just see it as external traffic, even on a zero-day attack. Could be brand new. We just see it as external traffic, we're going to drop you. Imagine that in a world that everyone's going to cloud as well. How can you trust the cloud provider to not be snooping at what you're doing, to not be able to see what's going on? It's well documented. The new governments are almost these monoliths of new companies that have got all your data, that understand what's going on, that are influencing things with AI that, is at a very early stage. Well, what if you're blocked out? Doesn't matter where I run the platform, it's a bit of hardware to me. It's CPU, it's disk, it's memory. What I'm doing inside, you can't see. Where I'm deploying it, I choose. I'm a container technology. All of the benefits, as much as I said, we're not a Docker, we're not a Kubernetes, remember that, but we are a container technology. All of the advantages with those platforms exist with Droplet. You can snapshot them. You can spin them up quickly. We can put them into a mode in which it's like kiosk mode, that every time you restart them, they go back to a known good configuration for the client side more than the database side. But if you're filing off that information and it's just a config, you can literally do a restart, everything's as you originally had it. So we never trust any external entity. We go further than that. That barrier of security that I've described gets wrapped around the client. So whatever the access is, it could be an old version of Internet Explorer. It could be a client application that's bespokely written, or an insecure protocol like TLS1 that's still needed, an old SMB protocol, an old Java, an old .NET, or a modern. And you can do application isolation. Imagine doing application isolation around your Outlook, your biggest threat. I can't protect you against that. Lots of other good vendors do some great jobs of identifying threats. That's not what Droplet's for. What I can do for you, however, is I can set you up a platform that would allow you to isolate out that application function in true isolation from everything else. And you can have little Droplet server appliances through different parts through the network, blocking all inbound and having stacks of Droplet server isolations for each application stack, running on a back-end network, not allowing everything out, controlling what you let out for what it needs to do, for the purpose it needs to do, locking it down to a given IP address on a given port and nothing else. So if it is that use case of an old Internet Explorer that talks to a back-end database, lots of them still exist out there. What you can do is say, right, only they're my servers, they're their IP addresses, that's the port range. That's all I'm going to allow out. So then that can't be used as the attack mechanism in the use case coming back to that customer that supplied their goods to government, where they failed the pen test because the breakout was in the app, the vulnerability was in the app because it was old code in the app. You can limit that down to only be able to do the job that it can do and nothing else. It can't break out and nothing can be seen. We're invisible on the network, and you can't break into a Droplet container because we're dropping everything. Some of you are probably ticking away. The more technical people in the room are thinking, well, what about AD? What about DNS? What about all of the usual stacks and authentication? One, you've got to authenticate back to the underlying platform that you're running from. Security is at that point. You can add a layer of security into Droplet. You can have additional layers of security baked on these different types of application layer. You can fit all of the modern day, and we seamlessly slipstream into their processes. From a deployment point of view, I'll talk about a bit later, we can scale up, we can scale across. We have deployments to many tens of thousands of seats through single customers, all load balanced, multiple clouds, offline, at the edge. Manufacturing use case that we're talking about here would be if you've got a manufacturing plant, or NHS, they've got scanners. Now these things cost millions of pounds in some cases, if not several hundreds of thousands of pounds. They have software that drives them and runs them. How can they possibly afford to upgrade it, to update it? In some cases, the manufacturer of the software has gone bust. What are they going to do? What's their piece? Well, at the moment, or in some cases, in some trusts, they take them offline, and then they have an operational problem because the data that then produces that system has got to get from that isolation into the main core database. All of that information then goes around on USB keys. How many USB keys are misplaced? How many of those are intercepted? How many of those are of security vulnerability? With Droplet, we can isolate the USB, we can isolate the serial port, we can capture PCI bus cards, we can run them on modern day Linux, modern day Windows, and run their application that has compatibility back to DOS, XP. The oldest one we've done, OS2 Walk 4, for a banking customer. Now running on Windows 10, and they seamlessly went to Windows 11 because we have no back-end dependency to the operating system. You can patch and update a system when patches come out, safe in the knowledge, because of our true isolation, it's not going to impinge or impact on the app that you're running. So you can stay up to date to the latest versions of patches and updates. You can get your Cyber Essentials. You can get your Cyber Essentials Plus if you're critical national infrastructure. Great use case around critical national infrastructure. Natural power. They are like a mission control for wind farms and solar farms. They take feeds in from all of the manufacturers of these wind turbines. You can imagine, things go out in the field, and it's the same with planes, trains, cars even. If any of you have got any of those kind of sectors within your portfolios, or you're in those kind of sectors, that's a vulnerability waiting to happen, because that's going to go out into the field for 5, 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 years in wind farms. It's a very simple process, but it could probably have DOS as the main controller running a wind farm, or XP, or Windows 7, whatever it may be. Now, as mission control, Natural Power have to take in all these different VPNs, all these different connections back to the edge, have all that complexity, ingest Windows 7, ingest XP into their system. That makes them vulnerable. How are they going to be compliant? How are they going to pass, as critical national infrastructure, the NIST protocol, the Cyber Essentials Protocol? The answer for them was Droplet. We had their review. They renewed after their 2-year with us back in June. And as part of that renewal, 2 things came out from it. First of all, because we're a container technology, because they just deliver to an endpoint a very lightweight client that talks back to their central system, very much in a pseudo Citrix way of being able to do the screen refreshes in their case. That's their setup. They are able to deploy a laptop within 5-10 minutes. Pushes out through SCCM, they push the client out, everything's there in a few flat files and config files within Droplet, job is done. So that was the first bit of feedback they give us. It's great now. No longer takes us a day to get a laptop ready. It now takes us 10 minutes. Job is done. Great operational benefit. The next one blew my mind. There was a hack to the wind farm on the west coast of England. At a local level, Vespa had no access to that wind turbine. They'd been compromised at the host. Being that central port of call and everything inside Droplet, because they'd isolated in the containerization technology, they were totally immune to the attack. They had full control of those remote farms, meaning it didn't become a national story. Because with our architecture, and it was a great endorsement of the architecture, nothing could get in. Didn't matter that the host level, they'd been compromised, they had no access. Because everything was wrapped into Droplet from that central core station piece, they had full access. Now that to me, as I say, was a great endorsement of the security around the product, around what we can achieve and how we can improve the landscape. Breaking the application management lifecycle, meaning that we take care of security in such a way that we never trust anything. One bit of further information, encryption. So we have a Droplet client container, we have a Droplet server container as isolated on here. We then encrypt the traffic in flight across that. So it means if you do have those insecure protocols that I was talking about earlier, the TLS1s, you know, inherently sort of protocols that could be got at by a man-in-the-middle attack. We're putting them into a modern encryption tunnel. What we have in beta now and what we're working with some very secret organizations is around the quantum bit ready encryption as well. To today, we have 256 AES as standard out there and a lot of other letters that my geeks know around how we do the encryption cipher. But we've gone a stage further. We've built an algorithm around what we're doing on multiple points of constant changing code that only our software understands at both ends, that isn't public domain software, that won't be out there for someone to be able to look at the code, to be able to work it out, figure it out, like a lot of open source projects that are out there on quantum bit encryption at the moment. Because the hackers are just going to work that out. They're going to be ahead of the curve. So we're building something that will be private. We're building something that will be qubit ready. Or we've built something that's qubit ready that will come into the product as future-proof. And the good news with Droplet is we don't tax our customers for future developments. We're a very cost-effective solution that's out there. Speak to your resellers. Softcat are on the stand with us today. There are other resellers in the room. There's boxes in there. I'm going to move forward. I've covered scalability. This is an important slide for me. In a lot of cases, in the legacy layer, no one knows how it really works. There's a bit of equipment in the corner in a lot of cases that no one dare touch. I don't know if this is ringing any bells in the room, but it's of such an age that Freddie used to run it or built it or used to support it, is no longer with the company or has passed on. For whatever reason, it just works and they're scared to touch it. They don't know what's going on. So this becomes very important. We can do both physical to container conversions and virtual to container conversions, taking the known good ones and zeros in the way they're working today in a risk-free proposition, because we just export out in an OVA, an open format. We then do a conversion on that open format into the Droplet container, and we leave the ones and zeros as they were. Everything still works in the same. All the dependencies are there. You can do a proof of concept. We offer 2 days worth of free professional services around every Droplet opportunity because it's great slideware. I can show you demos, and demo we'll run back at the stand if you're interested to actually see the back end of Droplet and some of the mechanics behind it for any of those more technical in the room that want to see how we do the ones and zeros, what the end user performance looks like. It's just a click at a shortcut, it shows their app. No retraining, just to reiterate that. So we are able to take the known good, what's running now in that corner that no one dare touches, make it work in a droplet, and then that frees you up. You're no longer bound to that piece of hardware. You're able to then put that in the cloud if you want, put that on another piece of bare metal if you want, put that on another virtual platform if you want. Scale that out, load balance it, put highly available structures in place that you won't have today in some of that world because it's just a physical box sitting doing that one job. It's a risk. If that blows up, we've had lots of scenarios of companies going on eBay, buying parts for systems that they have to keep alive because it does a critical job. We divorce, remember, the application and the server infrastructure away from the underlying platform, freeing the choices up of where you run it. In some cases, it needs to be at the edge. In some cases, it needs to be able to work offline. We have a story for that. We can run offline at the edge. We can run centrally in a more Citrix type of way. We can integrate into Citrix, into VMware Horizon, into AVD, or do a combination of all. If I just skip forward here for a moment and look at some of the use cases here, and this is one particular use case of someone that does it all across multiple clouds, some on-premise, some that need to run at the edge offline in an OT world. Nuclear, non-nuclear networks, all secured within the Droplet framework. We've worked with these guys for a long, long time. They had quite an issue. They had legacy platforms that they ingested an update from the vendor, I will leave them nameless, a virtualization vendor that no longer supported older platforms. We've had the use case on a couple of occasions. And we're not always there to replace that virtual platform like your Citrixes, like your VMwares, AVD might be in place. We can slipstream Droplet into those and integrate within those frameworks, as well as work independently. We can do both. They use every part of our technology. They use it on the edge. They use it in multiple clouds. They load balance across. You can imagine as a critical national infrastructure player that has nuclear power within its purview to look after, within its purview to secure. And yet, Droplet is the one chosen to protect these vulnerable assets. Going back, this is one, is there anyone from Boxy in the room? There's supposed to be someone from, they're on the stand. You can go and verify this with the Boxy guys. So they were the partner that came to us on this particular job. They were running a migration project that the customer had got into hot water. They thought they could upgrade all of their systems from 2008 and 2003 to 2016 and get through their journey. It went horribly wrong. The back-end dependencies, the DLLs, all of the challenges that they had no longer worked, and they were getting closer and closer and closer to financial penalties around not being compliant. They came to us and they said, this audit happens in 10 days' time. Help, we're in trouble. Day one, stood up Droplet server. Started to export where they were today. I think they're on Hyper-V, if memory serves me right, and then we had to take them to VMware. So we exported the VHDX. We then converted that into the Droplet format. That was all happening in day one. Day two, we started out deployments and they started pen testing. As you can imagine, Royal Armoury's military customer. Sensitivity around that and the levels of security they had to go through to ratify the solution being put in. So pen testing was started and a week's worth of pen testing got underway. At the same time, in parallel, because we were able to stand up all of the infrastructure inside Droplet, get it converted all in day one, they started end users testing. Made sure they got performance from it, made sure that it was going to work for the end users. Now, I would never suggest anyone goes down this crazy timeline. And we said, it's a crazy timeline, but hey, we can do it, we'll give it a shot. 10 days from start of the engagement through to getting it into production. That's how quick we turn that around. The blocker isn't Droplet, it's normally change control, it's normally an SI that's got to document and draw and procrastinate and get other team in here, and then it affects another team, and then more delays come in there. Or as we were with critical national infrastructure, there's a third-party auditor that has to sign off because it's critical national. All of that is the delays within Droplet. But Droplet itself, what we can do, and the speed of change and the speed of migration and the speed of how we can get you from the trouble that you may be in now to where you need to be, is very fast. Saving so much money, even if you're going down a digital transformation journey. Remember, today's modern is going to be tomorrow's legacy. Why not change that? Why not break the application management cycle? Why not get it in this great security structure that never trusts? Don't care who you are. Don't care what AI you are. Don't care how clever you're going to be. You're just seen as external traffic to me, and you're going to get dropped. I can look after your assets for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I can put it in an autonomous car. I can make sure that's not hacked. I can put it in a plane, in a train. We've done this. I can still make your equipment work as though it's there with no changes. Your end users are not going to be affected. I think that's quite a powerful kind of, overview of what we can do. We started off as an application delivery platform. Because we built secure by design, we ended up in this great security platform where we can control to the nth degree the end user, where they can go, what they can do, because we have all the controls of application management and user management. And you can build it to a structure that sits to a flat file structure, so it can run on any system, any hypervisor, any back end. You can free up what you do with your designs going forward, allowing you budgets, allowing you more time. Something that has to be learnt. Have I got any customers in the room today? Hands up if I have. It's always good. I should stage a customer. But I don't. This is real, and this is, we run the proof of concepts, as I said, in your environment, in the real world. You will see what we do without a risk. I'm not looking for you to take a leap of faith. We're saying we'll do that with you. We'll prove it out to you. You will get your end solution, and you will have guarantees before you pay a penny. That's quite important. Our customers find, and we find, we're built, and our organization is built as we take care of the code. We're the key code. We have Chase the Sun support, but we outsource to the large SIs. We outsource to the large VARs, and they take care of a lot of the heavy lift of support. So we have, although we're not as Droplet got thousands, we have through our partner network got thousands to support critical national infrastructure, very highly secured environments by people that are there to pick the phone up. That's important. Through our partner community as well, we don't sell anything direct to any customer. We go through the partner community, of which, as I say, Softcat are here supporting us in the room today. Softcat are on the stand with us. We've got our distributor in the room here, Raj, the sales director at the back from Prianto. So we've built a structure that is very scalable and very resilient around people that understand the technology, people understand how to support technology. Now here's the kicker. I've managed to negotiate with these SIs that take care of Droplet a cost per incident. I've had 2 support calls in 7 years. The first one was from the AA. Their app that runs something called Tiara is distributed out. They take the inbound calls. It's, again, a very critical application that people can be left at the roadside if it doesn't work. They've been going on this Droplet journey now for about 5 years. They were early adopters of the technology and where we went with this technology. The support call we had was a whole new team had taken over the IT function and didn't have a clue what Droplet was. It's like, what's this Droplet stuff? So we had to do a training exercise with them around Droplet, what it was, how they deployed it. Ended up in a sale of an extra 200 licenses, I think, or they found other use cases. We do not charge you per application. We charge you for the platform on a per user basis. We charge you on a per server basis. You can fill as many applications into Droplet as you want. You can have as many isolation stacks as you want, separating out your finance tier from your Outlook tier, from your HR tier. so that nothing can break out from one to the other, bringing an organization down. Your biggest vulnerability, your biggest threat, the people with inside, obviously, but we lock them down so they can only use the software as it was supposed to be designed. They have no access to the back-end platform of Droplet. They double-click, they get their app. They can only go where they're supposed to go. They can't interfere with it. No pen tester can break out from that. We'll work with your app, understand what your limitations are on the app, and lock that down from an outbound point of view. So it becomes a very powerful tool to use and scale. Imagine that Outlook threat. That's your biggest threat. Someone getting through the gates and balances. There are other vendors that are out there in the show today that do a much better job. We're not looking after the security around email. It's not what we do. So if you have that in isolation stack, you can still get breached because someone clicks on that wrong thing. It goes to where it shouldn't. You can limit that because if you're in an isolation bubble, you can block what goes out. You can block where it goes so it can't get out to that threat. That's one way. Two ways. Say the code and the package delivery is in an attachment. So it's there. It's in your Outlook. Some fool clicks on it. All of your protection software is gone. Takes the whole piece down. If you're in an isolation stack, one, it's just taking your emails down. I know that's critical. Because we're a container technology, suddenly what you can do snapshots. You can do RPOs, RTOs to an infinite time. Do multiple snapshots. And then you can stand back up 10 minutes ago, half an hour ago, an hour ago, to the time before they click that attachment and before you had the breach. It's a much faster turnaround in recovery, and imagine that giving you a much better peace of mind around how to do security for your apps and for your service. There are so many, there's so much flexibility in Droplet that we do fit lots of use cases, and I've tried to cover off some of them, but if you've got one that's burning in your mind of something that's real, either come and see us on the stand. We are literally the first stand as you come into the hall today, with lots of Softcat people. Raj, myself will be on the stand as well. If you want a demo, please come and see us. One last use case to cover. How am I doing for time? Oops, sorry. Keep going. Office of Immigration. So their use case was they wanted a whole application delivery platform. The fact that we were secure by design, they were going to home working. They've closed all the office down in central London now. They can go into other office departments, but they work completely from home. Now, the same use case that I told you with natural power, 10 minutes to stand up a laptop now. They're in that case. They have built containers that are golden images, and they can stand up their infrastructure, wherever it is, in a secure manner, with secure communication. Even if their home user gets hacked, their stuff's not going to get impacted. We're in isolation away from that. So they can start to implement bring your own device in a proper manner. And it enabled them to shut the offices down with no disruption, no retraining. Because they got their corporate app in the way that they wanted it, in the way that they see it, with no disruption. Another powerful use case. I'm going to leave it there, because demo time, I'm over. And we are on the stand. Come and see us. Are there any questions before I go? Wow, okay. I will take, I don't know, sorry, I've got someone with a microphone. Our man here.
Hi. Say you had a web application and you have a vendor-supplied MSI,
Yep.
and that MSI gets patched on a monthly cycle.
Yep.
So it's not just the operating system.
Yep.
How would that get managed? Would that be something that as a client we can manage in conjunction with you? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. You can still put your, like, how do you do it today? Intune, SCCM, that kind of?
It's manually installed on
manually.
It's a web server.
So it's a script. So there's
kind of a script at the moment, yeah.
Okay, there's two ways we can do that. One, on the more general use case, most people would use SCCM and deliver the package out. You can put the agent inside Droplet. The pull function can still be allowed to open up a stateful port, close it down when it's finished, to grab that package. That's one way. If it has to be ingested in, we got file sync and share. We built a file sync and share. That's not easy to say after talking with a dry mouth. A file sync and share package that doesn't use SMB. We built it for a banking customer in Hong Kong. and they banned all SMB traffic. They'd written their own protocol for file transfer, and they needed a way of getting files in and out of the Droplet. So we built our own package that we said, right, that file on the host and that file in Droplet stays in sync. And we built a secure protocol for that. So that's another way that it can be done. But yes, there are ways. Come and talk to us about your use case and what they can do. You're not going to let me have one more?
That is very quick.
Very quick. We slipstream into any third-party MFA, two-factor, any of those. Yeah, absolutely. No, not if you don't want. We will slipstream into any of those protocols. We're an executable and a flat set of files. You can put any governance and controls around on top of that.
Please thank Barry for his presentation.
Thank you.